want a garden so I can grow, and you can only go so far on your own.
Hello, I'm Maddy Harland from Permaculture magazine, and I wanted to show you my little no-dig vegetable patch that's a polyculture with lots of flowers and a mix of perennials and edibles. It's a very small and achievable no-dig patch. It's not big in size. I don't grow hundreds of different varieties of plants. I just grow a lot of plants that I like to eat and use in the kitchen every day. And I grow plants that don't mind the very wet, at the moment, North Devon climate, and that will grow happily here and cope with slugs, which we have a lot of, and the fact that the garden's actually, the house at the back faces north, so the garden mainly it's based in the woodland, so it mainly gets morning sunlight once the sun's got over the trees in the east, and sun until the sun sets, which at this time of year in August is quite late in the day, but it's not a really hot microclimate in this garden, and it is, as I've said, a rainy climate, so I can grow all sorts of things outside. I also, as you know, run Permaculture magazine and edit books and look after a woodland, so my gardening has to be quite simple. So I'm showing you my garden because it really is a simple, basic, no-dig garden. However, I've been eating out of it all year, and it's been a joy as well. So here you go. I hope you enjoy this tour, and if you do, please press the subscribe button and like this video, be much appreciated. This is quite a small garden, this part of the garden. It's only about possibly 15 foot wide and then about 45 foot long. So not big. And at the edge are apple trees and rose bushes and gooseberries in the deep shade. And this is the shady part of the garden. I'm showing you it in the late afternoon, the gorgeous evening sun. This is a most wonderful bed of mint, and I use it for cooking and drinking tea. And then of course it has crocosmia growing in it as well. I know that I should pull out lots of this mint, and I will, but all the time I don't need the space. It's just very, very happy. This is the second bed down, and it's got the very last crop of broad beans. I had them planted in a different place, but these are my last row, which I'm eating. And then a very big courgette, some Cavolo Nero, what will be a sprouting broccoli later in the year, and some Mizuna that's gone to seed. And I like to have flowers among my vegetables, so here are some glorious zinnias that really add to the beauty of this bed. next to it is bed number 2. I've got a dwarf French bean climbing up a curly kale, and they're both producing. There's a bit more curly kale, another courgette, a white borage, a line of beetroot, more kale, and more curly kale, more borage. Again, the idea is to have lots and lots of mixed polycultures, but because this isn't a south-facing garden, but a north-facing garden, I'm really aware that the light levels are very low at times, so I give a lot of space for the plants to grow. Here's another bed. At the back is alpine strawberries, pulmonaria, and a gorgeous rose that's now gone over. And then in here is my perennial kale and some spinach, perpetual spinach, and some lovely ruby chard. And a little salad plant tucked in there, and more zinnias. So perennials, flowers and annuals all mixed together. And you'll see that my paths are mulched with woodchip very deliberately. This bed is quite dark, as you can see. There's huge lime trees above. So I'm deliberately growing at the back roses and more crocosmia and ferns. And then here there's catnip and hyssop and Asturian cabbage, a courgette that's not seeing much light, but a row of leeks that will grow well, particularly when the limes have shed their leaves and the light is better, and the apple tree beyond has shed its leaves as well. And here we have a bit of a sacrificial kale plant that flea beetles have attacked and slugs. It's survived, but it's not going to feed me, but at least I'm going to get some plants in other parts of the garden. And here in another bed there's beetroot. There's a lovely choggier beetroot, which is a beautiful yellow colour, and then more planting of leeks. And these leeks really will thrive once the rather giant crocosmia has finished its season and I cut it all back and compost it. And this bed, it's another dark bed, and it never grows particularly well. I do try, but as you can see, particularly this year, the squash is very stunted. So I've started planting white borage, lovage and raspberries here, and I've got some apple trees, and they will get a late summer prune soon. And then as you can see beyond, there's an enormous grandmother apple tree, which I'm not going to prune. I'm just going to leave it, because this is a place that is loved by spotted flycatchers in the spring and bullfinches and tits, and it's just such a wonderful habitat, and it allows me lots and lots of apples, but many fall, and the deer actually come into the garden and eat them as well. But fortunately, so far, I've managed for them not to eat my veg. So moving forward, here's a bed of rhubarb. I never eat the rhubarb much beyond summer solstice on June the 21st, because it gets a bit too acidic. And behind it is a elder that I will coppice, because I want to keep the light and more roses. I didn't actually set this garden up, so some of the paths between the beds are a bit small for a wheelbarrow. So in a process of removing weeds and really getting this place nutrified, eventually I'll take these garden paths out and slightly widen, garden bed edges out when they've rotted, and widen the paths between the two beds. Here I've got a row of oak leaf lettuce and a cauliflower sticking in there. Another sad courgette that's not like the cold weather. Some dwarf French beans. And then a mix here of climbing French beans mostly, and a little scarlet emperor runner bean. I don't grow a massive amount of beans. This is pretty much enough for one person. In other years I've had this whole bean frame absolutely full, but I don't need to this year. So at the end of the year this frame's going to come down and will provide me with kindling. It's come out of the wood from the hazel coppice, just as these bean sticks have. And this is the very, very last of my mulched, which has fed me for a good couple of months of steady picking. And again, there's a bit of perpetual spinach dotted in with red Russian kale, more kale, and a big bed of spinach here. I love spinach. This bed is probably the best bed in the garden because it gets the optimum light and it's on the edge, so it's closest to me walking past every day. So I put in all sorts of things, more kale, more chard, more red Russian kale, and some volunteer white borage, which I just am growing purely for the bees, for their pleasure. This is a herb bed. I've mixed up garlic chives with ordinary chives. Self-heal has found its way into the bed, and I'm happily letting it be. There's sage, there's some wild geranium, some cornflower, and a beautiful purple bearded iris, and a daylily at the back. And here is another herb bed, and I've just cut back the magnolia stellata, which is a beautiful plant but was really taking over. So I've only just exposed the soil here in places, but this is a really valuable plant. This is winter savoury, but it grows all year round, and it is the most gorgeous culinary herb, as well as having medicinal properties. I really love this plant, and it's such a hardy perennial. It'll survive hard frosts and snow and keep on growing and keep offering some valuable green. Because of the hard frosts that come to this garden, I grow my thymes in pots, and then I put them into very, very sheltered positions where I can appreciate and enjoy them in the winter. Otherwise I'd lose them. More flowers, zinnias, just here, just for the pure joy of it. So this little garden doesn't grow tomatoes for me in very wet Devon because they'd get blight. I'm not growing outdoor cucumbers at the moment. I've got really some very basic plants, but it's enough with the odd potato popped in here and there to feed me for months on end. And I will add to the perennial herbs and the perennial salads as time goes on. But honestly, I end up giving away quite a lot of this. So I hope you've enjoyed this very simple and basic garden tour, just to say that the garden's mulched with compost, and that's what's keeping the fertility. And I make leaf mould and compost from kitchen waste in hot bins mainly that go on the beds, and I just feed it as much as I can. And this really is all about the gardener's shadow, because this is just by my kitchen door. So thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this little no-dig garden tour, and that it will show you that we don't need highly complex, difficult polycultures to keep us fed for many months of the year. I grow what I like. I grow onions and garlic and other alliums as well. And I grow hyssops and echinacea and other flowering perennials as well, all mixed up here with the roses and the crocosmias. And it makes for very good companions. I do have to come out and pick the slugs in the evening as the sun falls and it's dark, and especially when it's raining. But I don't use any sprays, any artificial fertilisers, just a bit of compost and some loving care and the shadow of the gardener. So, if you've enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button. Thank you very much for watching. Enjoy your day.